All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Face of Business. I am one of your hosts, Damon Pistolka, and that lovely gentleman right over there is Kurt Anderson. Welcome to our show today. We are going to be talking with a special guest. We're having a special conversation with the co-founder and CEO of HighLevel, Shaun Clark. Boy, I'm excited, Kurt. Take it away, my friend.
Thanks, Damon. Appreciate it. Happy Friday, everybody. Coming into the holidays. What an honor. What a privilege that we have Shaun Clark here. Shaun, happy Friday. How are you, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, this is an honor. It's a privilege. We're just raving fans of HighLevel. We've had your teammates on the program here. So this is, we've been doing a deep dive with HighLevel on the show here. And so first question that I want to dive into for you, we go back in time a little bit. Like you've got a fascinating background. You're a serial entrepreneur. I want to go back a little ways if we could.
Sure.
When you're a little guy growing up, now you're an Oregon guy. Is that correct?
An Oregon guy, but
Oregon. Thank you for correcting me. Thank you for.
He's an East Coast guy. He doesn't know how to say it.
I don't. I'm on the wrong.
You must be like, you got to be east of Denver or something.
I'm on the wrong side of this.
I got it. All good.
And on top of it, he went to the real OSU, Damon. He went to Oregon State University, right? The real OSU. So
well, technically,
not the one that you did.
That's okay. I did attend that university till my junior year. Yes.
Okay. So you start. All right. So Shaun, let's go here. When you're a little guy growing up, who was your hero? Who did you look up to? Who did you admire? Who was your hero when you were a little guy growing up?
My mom.
All right. Let's hear all about mom.
So, only child, single mom. Mechanical engineer, first female graduate in the mechanical engineering program at OSU in the 70s or something, or maybe the 60s, can't remember, something. And so just always admired the fact that she was able to provide such a great growing up, and at the same time, was a professional. Got to watch her struggle a lot with what it was like to be a female in a very male-dominated industry. So got really, while I was a white male, I got to see the perspective of, other than what I was going to run into. But I think it was very instructive because it also showed me what just being in a job was like, and, how you could very quickly suffer some pretty extreme consequences based on the actions of others that had really nothing to do with your performance. And so it really spoke volumes to me, both on the consequence side, as well as watching my mom, push through it and get through it. And so to me, that was a pretty amazing, lucky place to grow up.
Well, I love it. And I'm sorry, did you mention mom's name, please?
Oh, Diana. Yeah, my mom.
Diana. So, all right, big shout out to Diana, single mom, engineer, early grad, 70s, it sounds like a pioneer. So she kind of laid the footprint, the inspiration, the work foundation, work ethic. Is that kind of like where
100%
real entrepreneurship came from?
100%. Well, entrepreneurship, no, but definitely, working hard, always remembering. She used to tell me, things like, if you're not willing to do the job, someone's always right there to take your place. So definitely put the fear into me early on. And, the entrepreneurship really grew just from the fact that I really tried to figure out how do you square all those things with, a little bit more choice, and certainly the ability to fail on your own based on your own decisions, more so than just getting a job.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. All right. So let's keep the party rolling. So Diana lays a footwork, kind of foundation for you to, really, you've got to, what an inspiration, having a strong mother in that presence there. You go to OSU, and if I understand this correctly, maybe computer science, is that kind
computer science? Yep, that was me. Software engineer, programmer, love writing code. Yep, 100%.
Now,
and before that, before even going to college, I had the privilege to intern at Intel when I was, 15 or something, and then work writing software code for a marketing agency, which was really big. That Hewlett Packard, Microsoft, like really a couple hundred employees, was going gangbusters. So had an opportunity to work in industry prior to going to college. So kind of went into college, unlike a lot of my fellow, starters, I had a keen idea of what it was really like to work in the real world before I began. So had a really good idea of what I was after when I got there.
Well, love it. Now,
Very
do
cool.
so you work at Intel, you had all sorts of, coming out of college, all sorts of choices, Microsoft, internet bubble, at that time, but the internet boom is starting to happen.
Yep.
What did you see yourself like? Was it in your DNA? Was it in your blood that you're always going to be an entrepreneur, or were you the accidental entrepreneur? I know you've got a great story coming out of college.
I really always wanted to own my own business. I would say sort of, one of the mistakes I made, and I think some of this, I mean, I don't want to blame mom at all, but I mean, when you don't have entrepreneurs in your family, and I think this is just natural, if you don't know someone who does something, you sort of try to seek out those people. And I think to some extent, I put I'd for sure put way too much emphasis, at least here, this isn't like, this isn't like learning to be an astronaut, right? It's not like there's this like precision system that you go through. It's a lot of, trial and error. And so I put a lot of stock into trying to find a fellow entrepreneur to learn under. And so I would say the biggest mistake I made was I sort of thought, well, I really need to find someone to learn from before I do this. And so it really, and there's always pluses and minuses to everything in life. So I ended up, there's the .com crash right there at the junior and of my college career. And I lost my sweet job at that marketing agency because they laid off 100 employees, which is about 50% of their people in one day.
Yeah.
And I was sort of left jobless. And I sort of went door to door one summer and I sort of said, all right, I'm going to just take a stack of resumes and I'll put McDonald's at the very end of my route and just see what happens in the middle. And I happened to knock on the door of this guy who was transitioning from a residential long distance company, which had 10,000 customers. And he had sort of seen the writing on the wall because back then, if you're old enough, there's these laws where you couldn't buy local from long distance, but now we're really dating ourselves because it's like pre-mobile phones. Yeah. Anyways, all that to say, he saw the end of that and he was going into the answering service business, which at the time was a regional business. And this where at the time, again, old school rules here, long distance rates were insanely expensive. And he had these really great rates from his long distance business. And he was smart enough to see that he could kind of combine the two together. And so I walked in the door though so he had grown that entire business off the Yellow Pages, which, and so his plan at the time was he was going to rule the world by going after all these answering services and advertising through the Yellow Pages. So I walked in the door and said, oh my God, what are you talking about, you idiot? Like, have you ever heard of the internet and websites?
Yeah.
And to his credit, I don't think he really believed me at the time, but he said, all right, fine, let's partner up. Let's, you do the website thing, I'll do the Yellow Page thing. And we put out a website and, lucky for me about, I think, August or September, like the month after I went back to college, I was still working with him. And this crazy thing called Google AdWords came out. And, the rest is kind of history. And we went on to dominate that industry. We wrapped it up. We ended up with, a $30 million enterprise with, 5,000 small businesses nationwide, 400 agents, all answering calls inbound at home for plumbers and doctors and lawyers and dentists. And it was a great business and a great experience. I ended up dropping out of college to do that and spent 12 years working near 7 days a week, building that business. So it was a really interesting, experience in that I got a lot of exposure to a lot of business I probably wouldn't have had otherwise, but ended up essentially leaving that business with nothing. And so that was kind of the downside of that experience as well. So kind of a plus and minus there.
No. Okay. Man, all right, you piqued my curiosity there. So,
Sure.
And so we're checking out your LinkedIn. So, again, connect with Shaun here on LinkedIn. Yeah. We're here, founder, CEO of HighLevel. We're going to do a deep dive, really plunging into all the value all the solutions that you provide. Now, what's fascinating, it seems like there's a trend with your entrepreneurial journey. Is with the answering company, it was really helping entrepreneurs to better their business. Right.
Oh, I mean, really what I felt, I love that business so much because on one hand, it was the least techie business of all kind of time. Although to be fair, we did some kick-ass things back then. There was no such thing as remote work at the time. So basically what happened is we filled up this little building with people and, we sort of said, okay, well, what are we going to do here? And we started going around town looking at other places where, they had that. And the only thing back then where that was bigger than us, it was more of a call center. And a call center really was like, we're working for Ford Motor Company or something, and it's literally just like a body shop, And these places were wretched, man. I mean, they
Yeah.
were packed tight, and there'd be like, you'd have to like to go to the bathroom, you'd have to like raise your hand, and because the space, it was like the spaces were so tight, they had to like, it was like a runway. They had to like clear the taxiway so you could get to the back. It was terrible. And then like and then you had like the parole officer sitting in the lobby, and it just on and on, right? Just that future was so terrible. We were not going to continue expanding our business if that's where we're headed. So then we read this crazy article online about this company called JetBlue, which was actually having at the time predominantly females in Utah taking calls, and they'd figure out how to do it at home. And we're like, that's the ticket. If we're going to do this, this is how we're going to do it. So there was a laundromat across the street that had basically this terrible little office space above it for rent. And we said, okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to make that our spot. So we made that like our pilot office. And, we tried, it was like, how do we put agents there? And how do we not connect them via a physical wire back to the office? And, we started off kind of hokey. And then I remember, but we got it working. And then, so we started to kind of started to do it a little bit. And then I randomly saw a job posting that Amazon had put out for a phone system engineer. And I'm like, I bet you they're working on some phone system in Amazon. So I applied for the job just so I could figure out what was going on. And then they called me and I said, okay, well, actually, I don't want the job, but I want to know who the heck is running this project. And sure enough, it turned out that's exactly what Amazon was doing. They were moving at the time away from basically buying big phone systems from other people and doing it themselves. So we're in Oregon, not Oregon, and and Seattle, Washington is right north of us, where Amazon is from. And so we went up there, met with the team. We sort of became their inside, private beta testers of this, and basically built the entire what you can now buy as an Amazon hosted phone system around our original use case. And they allowed us to put literally thousands or hundreds, agents at home, and that's kind of how we kind of grew the business. It was a lot of fun.
Wow. All right. Well, dude, I mean, like the insight to like go apply for a job just because I want, dude, you should have been a detective, right? So,
I have made I will say, if I do anything well in life, it's find the shortcuts.
Finding shortcuts. That's your superpower. Finding shortcuts.
Yeah. And being willing to do stuff that most people would regard as nuts.
Yeah.
So now and again, they work.
So Shaun, so 12 years you mentioned. Now, did that lead you to? It looks like you had like an invoice, like a SaaS type. Did that lead you to that?
Yeah. So I mean, like lesson here is when you're getting into a partnership, you really want to know ahead of time what you want out of it, and I now say plan for the divorce before you get married, and I have seen this now with countless other entrepreneurs. Very few of them, I mean, luckily for them, sad for me, have worse stories than I do. They tend to hit the breakup points much earlier. But, the reality was that early on, I was offered a deal that I, as a naive 18-year-old kid, thought was Shangri-La, and I took it. And, 12 years later, when I had felt like I had essentially put my entire world into something and realized that perhaps I was due a bit more, I was told no. And to be fair, that was the deal. And I don't think anyone did anything wrong, but at the end of that time, I had moved from an 18-year-old kid to a guy who was married and had just had his first child. And I woke up one day and I realized that I was very unhappy with the situation. I felt it was incredibly unfair. And all of a sudden I had a child and I realized, okay, I'm going to have to tell this kid someday to go for his dreams. And if I'm sitting around here compromising, I can lie to myself all day long, but I cannot lie to him. So I got to do something about this. So I came to a point where, I made it very clear I wanted more. I tried every which way to do it and I was told no. And at some point I just had to put my money where my mouth was and I walked, and it was incredibly scary and painful and difficult. And lucky for me, I had a spouse who was willing to support me through it. And I went out and I started my first software company, which was not a very straightforward path, but all that to say, off my kitchen table, I eventually grew it to about 1,000 small businesses, all while having my infant son bouncing on a ball while I was soft programming, trying to get him to sleep in front of me.
Yeah.
And it was a wild ride, but it did eventually gain some traction. And I eventually got bought out by a Canadian payments company. As I always say, sadly, not enough to retire on a beach, but enough to start HighLevel. And so here I am.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for filling in those gaps. What an incredible story. Super inspiring. So let's go into, and again, what I admire, it seems like you, the whole time you're helping companies with their customers. That's
Small
kind of a
businesses. Yeah.
theme.
I've always been a small business guy. I'm super passionate about it.
Like,
That's awesome.
with whether the call business, invoicing. Now, okay, let's do it, and then we're going to dive into how Go High Level is just such a powerful tool for all sorts of entrepreneurs, small business owners. But take us back 2018, I believe, when Go High Level. How did this start? How did it get going? Let's go there.
Well, so with InvoiceSherpa, what I had learned was that it was awesome to be an add-on to QuickBooks and Xero, but if you don't have something that stands by on its own, you're just inevitably likely to get replaced. So that was sort of the big lesson I learned there. I also learned that, I'm not an enterprise guy. So I saw, the reason I sold InvoiceSherpa was simple. That I didn't have honestly, I didn't like, I would say, the idea of taking an enterprise. I knew other other companies that were doing it. I'm certain I could have done it. I just didn't like it. I don't like pretending I care about big companies. I don't like pretending that I like big companies. I can't pretend to be somebody I'm not.
Yeah.
And so fundamentally, I was just like, okay, forget it. I got to find something else. So I was like, great. So I realized from that experience, I needed to stand on my own. So having a QuickBooks or Xero integration was good. You should want that in your app, but it should stand alone and operate by itself. So that was kind of my thing. So then I was like, okay. Then I was like, all right, well, I don't want to try to be everything to everybody. So why don't I just pick a niche? So I went after, and to be fair here, I actually first went after the best software engineer I knew. His name is Varun. He's my CTO and co-founder today. But I knew I needed help. So I went after him. And at the time, I had sold InvoiceSherpa. I was like under a mandatory 1-year consulting agreement. He was off doing something stupid that I knew was going to blow up. So I sort of just said, all right, cool. I'll wait you out. I'm very clear about these things. I said, that's a stupid idea. So call me when it fails. And so we sort of kind of, I consulted away.
He's still friends with you, Shaun? He's still friends with you after that?
CEO. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if he likes me, but he's still around. But then eventually it failed as I knew it would. And he called me up and he said, all right, you're right. It failed. Now what? So, we did a couple of things. We started like an online invoicing thing, which is still technically, I think, live in the Android market. And we're going to make money off payments. That failed. Then we started Service Pro Max, which was a HVAC sort of field service, all you can eat management sort of app. The problem is we didn't bother to ask anybody if that's what the market wanted. And so when we came out with it, we had a bunch of customers and they said, oh, this is cool, but we've seen this before, except we've seen a version that's like, maybe it's a little more expensive, but it's got like 100 more features. So why would we use this? And we're like, oh, crap. So again, I'm really good. I'm not very creative at all, but I am really good at finding shortcuts and listening to other people's stories and really stealing great ideas. So I just listened to a couple great interviews from other entrepreneurs who were focusing more around marketing. And so what we did is we pivoted the app to HighLevel 1.0, which is really just two-way text messaging and reputation management. Because I figured, well, that's what every business needs, right? So then we went out and started selling that. And wow, that was amazing because now people are like, wait a second, hold on. You're going to help me grow my business? Well, holy crap, take my money. So that was exciting for the first 5 minutes. But then 2 weeks would go by and they'd all cancel. And, I am not the, I'm not the like, when it comes to that sort of stuff, it kind of like hurts your feelings when something you worked really hard on isn't going well, especially when they told you it was great. So I would just sort of be like, what's wrong? Are you guys like dumb or are you stupid? Which one is it? Because why are you canceling? And they would say, oh, no. It's just as good as you said it was going to be, except we don't have time to learn how to implement this in our business. And of course, to two software engineers, that is the worst thing you could hear because it doesn't, it's not like you need to build something you don't have. It's just that like they're just not willing to learn it. And I'd say things like, well, don't you realize that the guy down the street's going to get this stuff and then kick your butt? And they'd be like, yeah, but we just don't have time. And it was just like, okay, now what? And so we got uber lucky in this moment because, this could have gone many different ways, but we got a phone call from a marketing agency and that marketing agency we had a co-customer in common. And he's like, hey, my name is Rob and Alex, and I have this customer and you're doing this thing for them. And I'd like to see what you're doing, this and that. And like almost every great idea I've ever come across, my first reaction is like, oh God, this is so stupid. Why are we talking to this idiot? He doesn't even pay us any money. But he was super nice, okay? He was super nice dude. So I'm like, all right, fine. So we get on the call with him. We show him what he's doing. And, he's like, wow, this is amazing. I have like 80 other customers. Can I buy this from you? And we're like, sure. But one guy, as exciting as that is, one guy buying that, like, whatever, it's not going to pay all the bills, right? So I'm like, who knows? But 2 weeks went by and he's still there. So that was good. He kept feeding us really good ideas. So that was awesome. But then really, long-term, what he did, apart from many things, is open our eyes to the fact that there's this whole world of people out there that help these small businesses implement technology who are really at the time getting no credit for any of it. And fundamentally, I think also by and large were service organizations, and they were really powering a lot of the sales of these other products, even in some cases unbeknownst to the products themselves. And so what we realized early on was like, gosh, what we should do is let's become the white knight there. Let's support these folks. So we literally pivoted our whole business to focus on these marketing agencies. And, lucky for us, Robin didn't just disappear overnight after that. He stuck in there. He introduced us. He'd been in the agency world for many years. He introduced us to all his friends. He brought us inside every place you could imagine that we would have never knew existed, let alone had access to. And then, and I'm very embarrassed to say, spent the next like 2 years flying around the country with me for free on his own dime, promoting HighLevel with no ownership, no pay, no promises, no nothing. It actually got so embarrassing. Varun and I woke up one day and we were like, oh my God, where would we be without this guy? We need to give him equity quick. So we literally just called him up and said, oh, hey, by the way, we forgot to tell you, we're going to give you equity. Here's the deal, blah, 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 blah. But now we are all three co-founders, and all three equal, and the rest is history. But by focusing on the real sort of heroes behind the scenes, we were able to find a market that was really underserved, but quite well developed, kind of staring a lot of people in the face. But no product to date had ever said, you know what, we're not going to sell to the plumber and the dentist and the lawyer and the doctor and the marketing agency. We're just going to sell to the marketing agency. And that's truly what has made the world of difference for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the things we talk about a lot is focusing on your customer and really understanding what they need. And that's what you guys did and really have and continue to focus in. And, the thing that I love about Go HighLevel is your relentless pursuit of helping small businesses, these marketing agencies, deliver world-class solutions to small businesses. Because now what you've done is you've taken what used to cost and be tremendously costly, prohibitive to the dentist on the corner, the stuff that was enterprise level, just 5 years ago. Yeah. And it's crazy cool because your pace of development of new products, innovations, and just continuing to improve and refine is, man, I tell you, if you're looking at your updates that you guys are doing there, it's almost like Twitter rolling, man. There's so much stuff going on.
After this interview, I've got 3 more I'm going to be launching, so don't worry.
That's awesome.
The lessons here I would highlight are, so, and by the way, after my mom, my next hero is Warren Buffett. And I've been to Omaha to the Berkshire Hathaway meeting at least 8 years in a row. And I will continue till that man dies. And I don't go because I want to hear his investment advice, because he doesn't really give a ton of it. And it's the life advice and the business advice, actually. Yeah. And, things like, he always says the model's the thing that matters. And I would say that that's the truth for HighLevel. We don't fundamentally, I hate to break it to everybody, the secret may already be out, but we don't actually do anything necessarily new. We certainly have our things, don't get me wrong, but the core of our platform is not, hey, you've never seen this before. Really for us, it's about, hey, this is all the stuff you've seen in one spot. And also the way we go to market with it is, hey, we get it. This stuff's hard. This is like buying a hammer and a saw, but really wanting to build a house, right? Like, who do you want to be in that chain? Do you really want the house? Do you really want to learn how to do the saw? Do you want to learn how to build it? Mm-hmm. Do you want to be somewhere in the middle? And we try to offer options to all those people, but we also understand that most business owners are really good at something else. But it's not that they don't need the house. It's not that they don't need these tools. It's just that they also need someone who can help them take those tools and create those outcomes so that they can continue to do what they do. Like back to the dentist on the corner, I love that example because I always say, look, if you sit down in your dentist chair tomorrow and they say, oh, you know what, before we start drilling your teeth here, I've been learning a ton about funnels and marketing automation and building websites. And, I had to skip out on some, dentistry stuff, but, it's all fine and good, right? And it's like, all right, well, anyways, let's start getting drilling,
Yeah.
So one of us would be thrilled to hear that. But yet at the same time, do we want to be able to book online? Do we want to be able to read good reviews? Do we want to have a great web experience? On and on and on. Yes. So you need both of these things. And I think that's why you really need to find those people that can help implement those tools. And that's really been the focus of our business. So, it's the models that matter. And then looking at those people and how they were being treated by their vendors, they were just sort of being treated as nice to haves. They weren't being treated as customers. They were really just like, oh, okay, I guess I'll have to deal with these idiots. We took a totally different viewpoint. We're like, all right, these people are the heroes of the story. How do we put them on stage? How do we put a spotlight on them? How do we help them make money? How do we create a business model for them? Like, how do we fix? Because many of them, the traditional agency model is broken all over the place. It's akin to like, I build custom cars for people. Like, there just aren't a lot of people who need a custom car, right? So we help them transition their business model from these bespoke, unscalable services to a very repeatable, technology-led service. And it's a beautiful hybrid, right? They're not selling the tool, they're not selling the service, they're selling the technology-enabled service. And it's allowed them to scale in a tremendous way. But all the way along, it's how do we help these people become winners? Because if we help them win, the small business will win, and we will do just fine.
Yeah.
All right, this is awesome, Shaun. I want to go back on one thing real quick.
Sure.
Okay, so you talked about the previous business. What a wonderful experience that you had as far as maybe like what not to do or the challenge that you had with like partnership. You're looking for equity, that type of thing. So maybe I don't know if I'd say like PTSD, but might have been some trust issues. What would you for anybody out there? Because it seems Robin's been on the show, Chase has been on the show. It seems like Robin was just like relentless, for 2 years off the payroll, just really, just a huge advocate for you. Go into like the business side of things and like how important.
Yeah, sure. So first let's start with Varun, because that's important. So the first thing I would say is, if you're the original founder of the business, do not give anyone equal control. So from the very first day of Varun, so there's two things. So one is, as the first, put yourself in your shoes, but then also put yourself in their shoes. So what I learned being in the other shoes is it sucked when I had no way to exit the business. I had no liquidity, and I was basically held hostage for many years with my equity. And I thought that was a terrible way to play. And so what I did with Varun is, from the very get-go, I said, listen, here's what you own, here's how you own it. But here's, by the way, when you leave, the day you get pissed off or you're sick of this or you want out, here's what that's going to look like for you.
Yeah.
And, I did things like say, well, your equity converts to an accounts payable, because the other thing is, fine, you want to leave, that's great. If I keep going and I double the size of the business, you're not getting any of that.
Yeah.
So I made all of that very, very, very clear from the get-go. I also always had control. And because the worst thing I see all the time is people do 50-50 nonsense. And then they stalemate out, and then they fight about it. And then they'll come to us and be like, hey, I want this account, I want that account. And it's like, you know what, guys, until you agree, I'm not helping you, because we're not taking sides here, right?
Yeah.
So those things are incredibly important. And then like people will come to me all the time, switching to Robin, people will come to me all the time and say, well, how do you find a great co-founder? That's how you find a great co-founder. Find some person that will come out and back for you like that. And you'll never find anybody like Robin, but find someone who gets anywhere close to that, and you'll find a great co-founder, right? Find someone who believes in what you're doing so wholeheartedly that they will throw themselves into it without, all these upfront promises of fame and glory. And you will find yourself a great co-founder. I think there's no other way to do it. There's no job search for this. There's no forum for this. There is just meeting great people, doing great work with them, seeing who they really are, traveling around the country with Robin, getting up at odd hours and, going through the trials and tribulations. You just learn, you got to learn. It's like, everybody's going to be great on the first date, right? Everybody can keep it together for the first couple of months, but eventually, you gotta see people at their best and at their worst.
Right.
And that's how you find amazing, phenomenal people.
So, all right, let's go here. In case there's somebody in the audience that is not familiar with HighLevel, please share with folks, what is HighLevel? How do you make the world a better place?
Sure. It's an all-in-one sales and marketing CRM system that basically allows you to, any kind of small business you could imagine, you can run the entire business end to end on. It also happens to be multi-tenant by design. So if you also want to run 100 locations or 1,000 locations or 10,000 locations, you can also do that, all within the same application quite easily.
Yeah.
Okay, that summed it up quick. And so I'm going to, hey, if you guys don't mind, can you see my screen?
Yes,
sure.
I can.
Okay, so I'm going to go here. So Shaun, let's just walk through a little bit. So all in one platform, like, man, I know there's a lot of people out there. You're speaking.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's like calendaring and booking and websites and funnels and CRM and like on and on and on. It's very hard. Like analytics, you can create ads in it now. You can do courses, you can do communities, you can do invoicing and payments, and there's mobile apps and a mobile POS system, and like just on and on. You go all the way to the bottom. Most people, the way I would look at it is go to the bottom. There's a great chart there that shows all the different products that we replace. And those are really what, honestly, we do. We build this all in-house. It's not integrated. There's like a phone system there, two-way texting and WhatsApp. And now we have inbound voice AI now and content AI and all kinds of image AI and conversation AI is a big thing these days, and we've got it all. But all these things that you can do, you can all do this in HighLevel and more, kind of all in the same app. And I know it's hard to believe, but it's actually true. And you can do it for a very low price. Yeah. We don't charge, and we don't charge by customer or by contact or by user or any of this other nonsense. Yeah. Like other people do. So we have a very flat pricing model as well. So we try to make it super easy for people to both not only get started, but as importantly, scale up so that, we're not, and really the secret here that we've learned is that the vast majority of these other companies, the way they've built their businesses is radically different. They take a lot of other people's money most of the time. They plow into ads and SDRs and BDRs and AEs and outbound calls and And you know what? That just is a very expensive way to acquire customers. And what they end up having to do to back all that up and have any hope of someday making money is they have to create a pricing model that the bigger you get, the more you pay. And we've just figured out how to sidestep all that by not having that same model.
Yeah. And you guys approach your business in a different model than most SaaS kind of companies, because you guys didn't go right in for venture capital money in the beginning and take off that way. Talk a little bit about that, because that's commendable.
Yeah. So I mean, if you haven't figured this out already, I'm fairly opinionated and mouthy, so it doesn't go over. So you try to walk into some room with some certified smart people. It doesn't go very well. And so, we had to figure out early on how to be profitable, and we sort of, I would say, we're profitable almost from inception. And so we have raised money from private equity, which for the uninitiated, it's sort of generally it's supposed to go like angel and then venture capital, and then private equity tends to step in. Private equity firms are basically defined as people who only want to invest in known businesses that they're going to pay a higher, they're going to sort of like get a discount to what earlier investors would get, but it's primarily because they're investing money in things that are actually fully fleshed out and functional. We sort of skip those first two things, and the other piece of this is, if you're raising money early, you're giving away a ton of equity. And so for us, because we were profitable and had been for years prior to even starting into our first PE round, we in both PE rounds, we have gotten minority investments, which means we still control the company in both cases. And in both cases, these private equity firms are along for the ride. They are very smart people. I respect them greatly. They give us good advice. But if they ever give me advice I don't want to hear or I'm not interested in following, I don't have to. And to me, that was very important. But we took private, and we'd actually have never spent a dime of their money on operating the business because we never needed it. We didn't need it then, and we don't need it now. What we did do with that money is we used it to pay back our employees, many of whom had again, back to putting yourself in other people's shoes. Having no liquidity in a business isn't a fun place to be. And we've had some employees who have just absolutely killed themselves for 6 years to help us get here. And in the meantime, given away a lot of other easy money, quick, win opportunities, and had to tell a lot of friends, family, spouses, and otherwise that they were onto something bigger. And I felt a big responsibility to give them an opportunity to take some money off the table. And that's exactly what we did with these PE rounds.
Awesome. Very admirable,
That's incredible, dude.
Yeah. So, Shaun, let's go back. So, profitable rate from the beginning. Was there a stage when you felt like a tipping point where you're like, man, I'm really onto something? Like, was there a menu item? Was there certain thresholds, revenue benchmark?
No. No. It remains to this day. It's easy to sit back and pontificate, but I got to tell you, every day we are very much in the battle, and we have been since the beginning. And every day it was about getting up and saying, like, how do we make forward progress today? How do we help people today? How do we make the best decisions we can today? There's no master plan. There's no future state that's knowable. I can think of lots of mistakes that we made, but I wouldn't have done it any differently. And I wouldn't advise anybody else to do it any differently. I mean, to this day, I talk to customers on a daily basis, and I'm proud to do so. I think it's about just trying to stay in the moment, because what's been key to us is we work with an incredible customer base that we regard with such respect that, we really see ourselves in service of those folks. And our mission each day is to make sure that we're doing right by them. And it could be, maybe there's an existing feature they're trying to use and there's a bug or an issue or whatever. That's one thing. But the bigger thing for me is extracting the value that they have, which is, hey, we need this built in this way. And if you build it like this, you may not even understand why it matters. I'm decently intelligent. So most of the time, when they explain it to me, I can get it. But I will say that when I explain, there are many things that we've built in ways that I would have never imagined building because of the fact that they have that experience. And we're able to do it right out of the gate in the way that it gets essentially to the meat of what they're trying to accomplish a lot faster than other applications, because we just don't have to sit there and listen to the plumber, the doctor, the dentist go on about something, quite frankly, no offense, they just don't have any expertise in, right? It's great. And so we really pay a lot of attention to what our customers every day. And the only way to do that, quite frankly, in my opinion, is just kind of stay in the moment, be visible, be vocal, be whether it's on Facebook or Messenger or on a Zoom call, doesn't matter. Just be with your customer and try to constantly be, moving that value back to your team so that they can continue to build.
Yeah, I love that. And what's fascinating is like your model, like you talked about earlier, like really understanding the customer. Damon, you talked about it a little bit, but what's really fascinating with the Go High Level is like, not only have you just like fiercely, unapologetically committed to your customer, you understand the customer's customer. You're not dealing directly per se with the dentist, the doctor, the plumber, all those things, but like you're going to the agency and like, hey, agency, I have your back. I see the blind spot you have. I see how we can help you better with that dentist, with the Main Street, retailer. We work with manufacturers. So whatever that space is, really a unique business model. Where did that business model come from? Who are you going to give credit to on that one?
Oh, I mean, my customers. I mean, this is another thing I would highly recommend everybody do. Understand your strengths, but also as importantly, and maybe more so, understand your weaknesses. Mm-hmm. And don't try to make your weaknesses better. try to find somebody else who's already good at what you're terrible at, and make their job filling in the gap for you. And it doesn't, and it sort of, maybe that feels selfish, but I think the reality is it's a beautiful pairing, because I will say there are very few product and engineering teams on planet Earth in this space. In fact, I will say none in this space that can execute as well as we can. Mm-hmm. And that is what we are good at. And we will continue to be good at that. What we are terrible at and will continue to be terrible at is trying to guess what our customers need. Mm-hmm. And we literally, so what we've done is align our business in a way where, be it the town halls that are live Zoom calls with the product teams that anybody can go to that's a customer, where the team will present to you what they're doing. They'll say, here's our roadmap. Now, what do you think about it? And we'll get you, and you can give live feedback right there. You can ask questions. Mm-hmm. Ideas list, where you vote up exactly what you want us to do. And we actually use that ideas list to figure out what we're going to build every quarter. Yeah. Like everywhere along the way, we have a continual feedback loop where we feel like our mission and our job is to just really weed through the feedback and find what really does matter. And look, it's an imperfect system that I'm sure we have lots of people who will complain about it here and there, but the reality is the best system we've seen to date to get that information in. And then our mission is to just build it and put it back out in the world the way that our customers ask for it. That's it. That's how you do it.
Well, I love it. All right. Is coming into the new year, what are you super excited? I don't know if you want to reveal or like any
I mean, we this is the funny part about it. So the other thing is, like, on one hand, it'd be great for interviews like this if we work like other companies where it's like we have some big aha moment coming. Yeah. But I'm telling you, the second we have anything of value. So the other thing we live and die by is the skateboard model. So you can actually look this up. As always, like every good idea, I stole it from somebody else.
Yeah.
But the skateboard model of programming is quite simple. Everybody says they want a race car. And respectfully, some of them need it, but most don't. So what you do first is you make a skateboard. And the reality is most people get the skateboard and they're like, hey, I asked for a race car, bozo. This is a skateboard. What's the deal? And you're like, no, that's cool. We're still building the race car, but we just wanted to show you where we're at so far. What do you think? And one crazy guy will step out of the crowd and jump on the skateboard and be like, holy cow, you know what? That's all I needed. Bam. And he's gone. He's off on the skateboard. But the next person will say, okay, this is cool, but here's what I need. This is what I really need to make it worth it. And the skateboard goes to a scooter, goes to a bicycle, right? Goes to a motorcycle, goes to a car. And here's the big difference. All the way along, people use it. And most people, by the time you get to the race car, darn near 90% of people have already left the building with whatever it is that you already built. And then by the time you do get to the race car, I hate to break it to everybody, but race cars are different. You can have the F1 style, or you can have those kind that just go like this and drive in a circle for a couple hours, right? Those are two different types of race cars, and you got to know what it is that you're trying to get to. So if you don't build that way, and you build, you wait till the end and you go, aha, and people are like, what the heck? That's not the race car I was thinking about. Yeah. You've just wasted all that time when you could have been A, giving people something they wanted, and B, getting to the actual end that everybody who really did need the race car was looking for. And so we build that way. So there's nothing that we keep under wraps until for any length of time. So back to your root question, which is what am I excited about? I'm freaking excited about inbound voice AI, because as somebody who all the way going back to the answering service days, seeing the power of being able to help small businesses field inbound requests 24/7, 365, AI has now crested it. If you go on and you experience this, we designed this from the very beginning for a very simple purpose. It is a receptionist style implementation. It locks itself, it boxes itself off and says, I refuse to be any more than this. And if you do that, the experience is wildly great, because you get exactly what you expect from receptionists, which is they don't answer really complex questions. They will not sit there and conversate with you, but they will tell you, basic things, basic prices, basic services, book appointments, and that's it. And for the vast majority of businesses, it is stupendous. And we do this on voice. We do this on conversation AI. We will also be coming out with it on the outbound side. Although to break everyone's hearts and destroy everyone's dreams, it will not do everything and anything, and will not magically grow your business for you. It will be basically an outbound receptionist doing the same thing the inbound does, and mostly on along the lines of new leads that you actually generate. On the outbound side, for the uninitiated, there's a tremendous amount of regulation here. So we're going to be uber careful about it. And there'll be a lot of cowboys. In fact, there was a huge company I don't know if it's been officially announced yet or not, but so I won't say their name, but they were going to be erased out of the existence by the FCC due to the fact that they sort of opened up the lanes and said, oh yeah, let's all go out there and cold call with robots. That's not going to work. But there is a version of this, I think. And again, this goes, it is funny. You go back to all the whiz-bang software in the world. I am telling you, speed to lead wins the day every time. Every small business, anywhere on planet Earth, if somebody raises their hand, if you get back to them in 5 minutes or less and you get them to take the next step in the funnel, you win. Period. Full stop. That is how you grow every business every time. I don't care if you sell plumbing services or, fighter jets. The day somebody raises their hand, in fact, good example of this, take products that have monopolies. If you said I really want a Tesla, right? And the reality is there's always competition to that, because even though there's one manufacturer of that product, there's also all the other things in your life that are going to pull you away from that interest. So even there, if you were to raise your hand, the faster they strike, the more likely they are to close the deal. And all of that is still very much the same today, because fundamentally what we're talking about, all this software is really a psychological construct. It is about trying to move humans from interest to purchase as fast as humanly possible. And the way to do it these days is automation. So really that is where we are focused on what I am most excited about. And, yes, we will continue to roll out all the other amazing CRM products and software stuff and replace all of our competitors that are out there and do it using this amazing model. But I am still more excited today about helping a small business, go from, in fact, great example here in Eugene, Oregon, where I live. I still to this day, the guy who did my HVAC system when we first moved in, he was one man in a van. He had 12 freaking Google reviews. I said, what the heck? Why do you have 12 Google reviews? And he said, because I'm a plumber. And I said, well, what if for $300 a month, I could get you more reviews? He said, sold, without asking any questions, which is, I think is funny. But fast forward to today, he's got 30 trucks. I don't think he's been out at an HVAC job in years. And 1,000 Google reviews. And to this day, he never calls me. We still do the one thing we've always done for him. And it has grown his entire business because, again, when you Google, HVAC Eugene, Oregon, or HVAC me, he shows up near the top. Game over. He wins.
He wins. Yeah. Hey, Damon, we got a question here from Dan that we should pull up.
Dan, we missed this a little while ago, but if we get there. Shaun, what do you think is the usefulness of cold calls, emails, and Google ads in today's
is that all? Marketing? Why don't we throw in? That's a huge range.
It is a huge range. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So here's the tough thing, right? So this is like cold calls and cold emails. The reality is I can think of cold calls and cold emails that I've bought stuff from. Very few though. Although to be fair, I sold, so InvoiceSherpa, my business that I sold from a cold call. And I point this out because I hate cold calls. I think everyone would say that, right? I hate cold email. That's what everyone would say. But why did I do it? It's because the pitch was right. The guy called me and he said, I'm gonna take you to the, I'm gonna sell your business and blah, 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 blah. And you know what? I did what I always do. I just called BS on that. And I'm like, yeah, sure, buddy. I've gotten a million of these calls. And he's like, all right, I'll tell you what. He's like, you name a price, you sign a document that says if I sell it for that price within the next 6 months, I get a commission. And if I don't sell it, you don't owe me anything. And I'm like, all right, send me the document. And you know what? All the way through, I was very skeptical. I'm like, I'm gonna sign this stupid thing. I'll never hear from this guy again. I signed it, and 2 weeks later, or actually it was a week later, he came out with 3 bids maybe. Nice. So point being is I think those things are exceptionally good. In fact, my 12-year-old is just set up his website this morning, and he is going to go and start selling HighLevel, and he's starting with cold calls. So, the reality is I think all of that stuff can work. Now, personally, if you ask me what I would do, I think one-to-many is the better strategy. And what would I do? So people ask me all the time, how would you do this? I'll tell you what I would do. I would focus on local. Start with local. Why? Every local marketing agency I ever spoke with, of which I've spoken to hundreds, if not thousands of agencies, none of them said they had a churn problem. The local guys never said it. I would talk to the Facebook ads guy who's like, I'm niche down in dentistry. And you know what? Actually, to be fair to them, I met some really smart, really good, I could see their numbers. They were crushing it. Dentist focused or niche focused people. And their churn was terrible, horrible. You know why? Because what people don't fundamentally understand is the business owner doesn't care. In fact, they don't have time to care. The dentist does not have time to sit down and look at your ROAS to see that you're really crushing it for them. What they do is it's simple. They have the bookkeeper sit down and say, all right, show me all our expenses from most expensive, least expensive, and then try to kill it. And the second they hit your $3,000 plus ad spend bill, they're like, okay, wait, what was that new Mercedes down at the lot? It's like $800. I kill this idiot, I get that new Mercedes. I mean, the churn was just remarkably high. And it's because they didn't have the connection to the customer. The local guys, they never had this problem. You know why? Because they take a box of donuts in every 2 months, and the dentist would never cut them. Oh, that's Bill. I love Bill. He's great. He's such a nice guy. He always stops by. They don't know anything about ROAS. He's not, and by the way, he's not specialized in dentistry. They don't even barely know what the guy does for him. But what they do know is who he is as a real person, or who she is as a real person. And that connectivity was crucial. Now, what problem did those guys have? They ran into share a wallet issues, which is I've sold the dentist marketing, and the dentist will pay me for marketing for the next 30 years, but I want to make more money off the dentist. How can I help? And that's how HighLevel helped them. But that is why I would start with local, because people will know, like, and trust you better. Period, full stop. Now, how do you maximize local? You maximize local by you do the one-to-many. So first, take advantage of the one-to-manys that exist. These are like the Chamber of Commerce, the BNIs. You go there, you do non-pitch presentations. You show people how to market their business for free. You show them how much they can do, how big it is, how all the amazing things. And they're going to very quickly realize two things. Wow, that looks amazing. Boy, that sure seems hard. Oh, wait, this guy at the front seems to know what he's talking about. Maybe I'll go ask him. And boom, that's how you'll pick up a lot more customers. If you run dry on that, then then the next thing you do is you start your own local business content strategy. So then you're calling every business owner, hey, Bob, I'm not calling to sell you something. I'm actually calling to see if you'd like to come on my YouTube podcast where I interview local business owners and how great and amazing they are. And I'd love to talk to you about how great and amazing you are. And everyone has an ego. Everyone loves it. It creates connectivity. It establishes you with local market presence and a local market authority. And over time, you'll crush it. That is where I would start. That is how I would do it. So yes, do cold calls and cold emails work? Certainly. But I'll tell you, that works a lot better. Now, what's hard about it? For most people, you have to get out from behind your computer, which scares the hell out of most people. There's a little bit more upfront work, but I will tell you fundamentally, if you really think about, I can think about other businesses that sell this way, and they just have incredible amounts of luck. And many of them, so just think about like your HVAC guy. Do you think that they're buying, national mega brands for all their stuff? Of course. They're buying Lennox and they're buying Carrier and they're buying all this. But I'll promise you this, the person who sells it to them, they're not getting on a Zoom call with them. That guy's showing up in a freaking truck, okay? Yeah. Your dentist, I'll tell you something. Go look up Patterson Dental, multi-billion-dollar company serving almost every dentist in the freaking world. How do they show up, though? They show up in a van. Hi, we're here to drop off your Novocaine and you're this and you're that. As far as the dentist is concerned, it's like the mail person. It's like your local Patterson dude or lady or whatever, right? It's a local sale. Even though you can roll it up to a really big billion-dollar business, it's a local sale, and that's where everybody else should get started. And for those of you who have some innate fear that if you dominate your local area, you can never go away from that, I rest assured, if you dominate, Cincinnati, Ohio, I can show you how to take on the world after that. But most people just refuse to start local. And as a result, they get off on these big tangents where it's like, if I don't dominate the world of dental, I lose. It's like, no, come on. Like, I'll show you how to be a millionaire just dominating your local market. And then you can go worldwide after that. But everybody, if they just start local, and then what do I sell? You start simple, for gosh sakes. Had the same conversation with my 12-year-old. Don't sell websites or any of that. First of all, don't sell features, sell outcomes. Businesses don't want websites. They want Google reviews. They want to rank higher on Google. They want more customers, right? What did I do for Alpine, the HVAC guy? That's what I did for him. Now, lucky for me, he's smarter than I am, and he understands the value, so I didn't have to really make a sale. But that's the whole point. Reviews, put him at the top of Google. You got him a lot more customers, and it built this whole business. That's what you're selling to people. You're selling outcomes. The one thing I hear people do, they make the biggest mistake, is they freaking try to talk about features. So they're like, oh, well, I've got this great CRM system. And then someone will be like, well, I've already bought a CRM system. What's the difference between yours and mine? And all of a sudden you have two people who, quite frankly, have no expertise debating the thing that they should. It's like if you and I started debating heart surgery techniques.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about. I sure as heck don't know what we're talking about. So why are we talking about this? But unfortunately, when people do this, since the business owner's already made a software choice, you're putting them in a position of feeling forced to debate it. Versus if you think about the home remodeler, when you're asking to remodel your house and they say, you never say, okay, wait, hold on now, but you use Makita products, right? Because I'm a Makita man. Because if you use DeWalt, you're not doing this. Yeah. That's not how it works. No one ever says that. And that is not how this should go either. You need to focus on the outcomes. And if they ask you about your tools, you should almost laugh in their face and be like, what are you talking about? Who cares what tools I use? I'm going to get you more customers and more 5-star Google reviews. Isn't that what you want? And that is where the conversation will end. And that is how you will win the game.
Yeah.
Drop the mic, Mr. Shaun Clark. That was phenomenal. All right, dude, I know I'm keeping you over time. Two last questions for you. That was, all right, first off, man, thank you. That was just brilliant. I'm like speechless right now, Damon. That was absolutely phenomenal. Shaun, let's go here. Sky is the limit for HighLevel. Sky is the limit for HighLevel.
Yes, it is.
What are you like? Are you going to become Microsoft level? Like what's the future? How big is HighLevel?
I get this question also.
How high is HighLevel?
I get this question all the time, but I'll tell you, I will continue to give the same boring answer that I love, which is, remember, we're not doing this alone, right? We're doing this in partnership with our customers. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we can go as big. We are worldwide today. We'll go even bigger though. And we'll help more people in more ways. But I would promise you this, we will do it the same way we've always done it, which is that I will wake up every day and make sure that the other person on the other side I'm selling to is making money doing it, building a business on their own, like really achieving the things they're setting out to achieve. Because if I do that, I'll be just fine. And and where we go with it, I mean, I want to help as many people as humanly possible. I want to change the model and the paradigm under which we all operate, because I think that is the biggest issue here, is that people believe that the only way to win is to sell people something and then jack up the rates and charge them more later and be all tricky with it just to try to like meet some other person's expectation, most of the time investors. And I feel terrible because a lot of the people who start businesses that I start, they were engineers like me, and they just end up having to drink the Kool-Aid in order to keep the lights on and do the thing that they love to do. And it doesn't really work out for them, by the way. I've met a lot of them, and they end up owning almost none of the companies that they start because they've had to give away their, they'd have to sell their soul for another $1 to keep the office open. And I just think it's terrible. And the people who really lose are the small businesses that end up getting these products shoved down their throat and then have their salesperson vanish in the dark because they got to go call another 1,000 people today to make a sale. It's just a terrible paradigm. And I know it can be different. I know it can be better. So as long as that model holds up, I'll be right here, and we'll continue to push this out and expand the product and help more people.
Love it. Great, phenomenal answer. I appreciate it. Last question for you. And for your 12-year-old's name, please. What's your 12-year-old? Jefferson or Diana, any entrepreneurs out there, regardless of what age they are, best business advice that you've ever received or that you would like to pass along?
Well, there's two pieces. It depends if you're young or not. So if you're young, start early. But if you're old and you haven't started yet, don't worry, because I didn't start until really probably in earnest until I was 30 something. But I would also just argue, the other big thing is, you listen to interviews like this, and I've been so fortunate in my success, but I've also had a multitude of many failures. And the reality is, but they were never really failures because I never quit. You just sort of say like, oops, that didn't work. And, you learn something from it. And, I read a book once from a woman, I'm trying to remember her name now. But it really was, she was a college professor. And what she fundamentally did is she went out and she gave kids these tests that they could not pass. They were unpassable. These were like, fifth graders getting like 12th grade math tests. Right. And then after the failure, she would sit down in an interview and be like, hey, what did you think about that? And she would get two sort of lanes of responses. Some people would say, oh, I'm just an idiot. I'm a loser. I'm just never going to go anywhere. And then the other kids, and remember, everybody failed. So the other lane of response was, I'd really love to learn like more about this. I'd love to get good at it. I'd love to understand how to pass it next time, whatever. And then she followed these people out 30 years, and literally to the person, the people who sort of saw the failure of the test as a failure of themselves, they failed in life. Their incarceration rates were higher. Their drug addiction rates were higher. Their pay was lower. I mean, everything, their death rates, they died at a much younger age, on and on and on and on, to the person. And she did this in different socioeconomic groups, different physical locations, all kinds of different demographics. Nothing mattered. It was fundamentally the attitude that made the person. And the vice versa, right? The people who saw it as a challenge and as something to overcome or to learn from, they just did radically better in all facets of life. And so my thing that I would pass on is keep that in mind. When a failure occurs, do not see it as a failure of yourself. It doesn't mean that you didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't mean there's anything to learn from it, but it just means, don't quit, take those lessons, keep on moving. And the worst part about entrepreneurism, I think, is it's hardest at the beginning. That's the worst time. The first call you make is going to be the worst call you make because you are going to be the worst at it. It's going to take a lot of reps to get good at it. And, that's why I think most people quit, is they do it, 50 times and they think, oh gosh, that was hard, and I'm not going anywhere, and I can't see the improvement. So, again, start early and continue to, and don't quit, and continue to pivot and find that lane that works for you. And if you do that, you can do quite well and be quite happy with those outcomes. I think those are the two biggest things I've learned from this journey.
Awesome. Phenomenal answer. And by the way, we got a comment. People love your poster. I'm sure you get comments on your other podcasts. So love the Casablanca over your shoulder.
Oh yeah. I do this just so that, if you listen to me and you hate everything about me and you think I'm the ugliest person you've ever seen, at least I've got a good background.
At least you got Humphrey. Yeah. At least you got Humphrey Bogart over your
shoulder.
That's right.
See, he pulls me through.
So, hey, and Curtis Tompkins, a great friend of ours, says, start early, don't quit, continue to pivot and find the thing that works for you. There it is. Drop the mic, right, Curtis? So, all right, Shaun, I've kept you way over.
No worries, guys. Well,
thank you
so much.
Thank
I had a
you.
great time
Thank
today.
you, man. This was, I want to thank everybody in the chat. I want to thank you, your team, Robin, Chase, everybody out there. We wish you just continued monster, massive success. It's just a privilege for us kind of, having a front row seat, watching you guys build this company, helping entrepreneurs all over the place. Damon, what do you got as we close out?
All right. I'm going to take us home here. Kurt, thanks so much, Shaun, for being here today. God, just a master class in entrepreneurship, and love hearing what you guys are doing there at HighLevel and what you're continuing to do. First of all, I want to thank the people that dropped comments in today. We had Kevin, Sadia, Dan was in there a couple times, and then we had Usman and Curtis dropping that last comment. Thanks so much. And if you got in this late, go back to the beginning and start over because you missed a lot. You want to go back and listen to Shaun and the golden nuggets he was dropping. So thanks everyone for being here. This is officially our last show of the year.
So whatever holiday you're celebrating, we wish you it's a wonderful, incredible, amazing holiday. Happy New Year to everybody. Shaun, thank you for closing out this year with us. And again, we're just raving fans. Connect with Shaun on LinkedIn, connect with his team on LinkedIn. If you're struggling with your marketing, cold calls, any of these other things, and check out Go HighLevel. And I'm telling you, it takes you to the next level, pun intended. So, all right.
All
Shaun,
right.
thank you, brother.
Hey, thanks, guys.
We're done.
Bye, everybody.
Now we'll finish offline.
All right.